are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday. Oh man, I was doing good before we got on here, but my voice just decided to act up on me. But we have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat for you that I will acknowledge during the live broadcast. And it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we come out with content. And also the other way of helping out the show is by going to the link gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So I, again, apologize for that opening because I don't know what happened there. I was sounding good, and then all of a sudden, of course, I go live, and my voice acts up on me. Again, still not 100%, but we're slowly but surely making our way there. But we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Patriots now. We're going to talk about their upset victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Jerod Mayo picking up his first win as the head coach of the Patriots in the post-Bill Belichick era. Then, in the second part of the show, we will talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their win over the Atlanta Falcons in Kirk Cousins' first game as the Falcons' starting quarterback. And the starting quarterback for the Steelers was not Russell Wilson. It ended up being Justin Fields. So we'll get into that as well. We'll also get into talking about Josh Allen and his performance in the Bills' comeback victory against the Cardinals. In the fourth part of the show, we'll get into talking about the NFC South. We'll talk about the Saints and their performance against the Panthers, as well as, and I know I talked about it briefly when I was going over the rookie quarterback performances, we'll get into talking about Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers' performance against the Commanders as well. And then in the final part of the show, we're going to do power rankings. I'm going to list my top 5 teams after week 1. So that'll be at the end of the show, so make sure to stick around for that. So let's get into the first topic, which is getting into talking about the Patriots and their upset victory over the Bengals. So this was a surprise, to say the least. A lot of people picked the Bengals in their survivor pools. I was one of those people. I didn't feel great about it. To be honest, I really didn't feel great about a lot of the games this week. It really, none of them really seemed like guarantees for me. So, but this one, I looked at and said, you know what, the Bengals, they start off the season usually slow, but I feel like they could still get the win, right? Well, that ended up not happening. The Patriots, they ended up picking up the win, 16-10, low-scoring game. And look, is it time to panic for the Bengals? No. This is what they typically do. But, I mean, also, like last year, they lost to the Browns, who ended up making the playoffs. And Joe Burrow seems to always have a problem playing against the Browns in Cleveland. The year before that, they lost to Mitchell Trubisky and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, what did they do the year before that? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh wait, they played the Vikings, and that was Jamar Chase's first game, and he played really well. I think that game went to overtime actually. But yeah, if the Bengals won that game, But these last couple of years, they started off slow. And this was no different, except this was against a Patriots team that is looked at as being one of the, bottom 5 teams in the NFL. And they still very well could be that. But, yeah, this was kind of a surprise. I thought the Bengals would still be able to, pull off the victory. But there's just been a lot going on with them. I mean, the Jamar Chase stuff, you had T. Higgins being ruled out. I mean, we weren't sure if Jamar Chase was going to play with all the contract stuff that was going on. And then he popped up on the injury report with an illness. So, yeah, we really didn't know what was going on. But Chase ended up playing. And the Bengals, they actually didn't score a point in the first half. They got shut out. The Patriots outscored them 10-0 in the first half. The Bengals actually were driving, and it looked like they were going to score a touchdown in the first half. Tanner Hudson, the tight end, looked like he was going to score, but then Kyle Duggar knocked out the ball, and the Patriots ended up recovering, and the Bengals didn't get any points off of that drive. Jacoby Brissett started the game. I mean, didn't put up monster stats. He went 15-24, 121 yards. Ramondre Stevenson is a player of the game for the Patriots. 25 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Got that contract extension this offseason. He's a good running back. He is a good running back. So that's one playmaker that the Patriots have on this offense. And then the leading receiver was Austin Hooper, 2 receptions for 31 yards. But the Patriots did, what they could do on offense. And then as for Joe Burrow, not a good game for him. 21-29, 164 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 sacks on the day. Brissett was sacked 1 time. It looked like he got banged up in this game too, but was still able to finish out the game. Zach Moss had a touchdown in this game for the Bengals. He was their leading rusher, 9 carries for 44 yards. Jamar Chase, of course, was their leading receiver, but only 6 receptions for 62 yards, and they were on 6 targets. Burrow had a fumble, but didn't lose that. Yeah, Tanner Hudson had a fumble, lost that, and also Charlie Jones had a fumble and lost that as well. I think that was on it was on the punt, I believe, that the Patriots ended up recovering that, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to see if I could find it, but yeah, that was another fumble that happened in the game as well. But yeah, the Patriots, look, they have a good defense. That's not going away. But what's going to be challenging for them is the ability to score points, because there is not a ton of playmakers on that side of the ball. But this is not a year for the Patriots to be a contender. This is a rebuilding year, but a win like this has got to give a team a lot of confidence. Going on the road and playing a team that many people look at as, if everything goes well for them, they could be a Super Bowl team. Because this is a team that has made a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow and that group. This is a win that could really go a long way. And next week, the Patriots play the Seahawks at home. I wasn't really impressed by the Seahawks. They played a sloppy game. So, I think the Patriots maybe, it's possible they could start off 2-0. Not guaranteeing anything, but, it's possible. And I only had them at 4 wins, I think. So if they start off 2-0, they're already halfway to the amount of wins I gave them. So, now, I guess the bigger thing, well, not I guess, but the bigger thing is, should we panic on the Bengals? No. We should not. But I know there were some videos on social media going around of Joe Burrow, and he was kind of, moving around his wrist, and, people were overanalyzing him picking up a water bottle and saying, this guy can't pick up a water bottle, whatever one of the tweets I saw said. First of all, I think we're overreacting a little bit, but, it is a little concerning when you're seeing him, working out his wrist on his throwing hand, because that's what ended his season last year. Now, I think it's something that he's just gonna have to deal with over the course of the year. But if we get to a point where he misses a game due to a wrist injury, if something flares up and it becomes a problem, yeah, then it's time to worry. But right now, I don't think we should be sounding the alarms just yet. But you don't like to. That doesn't mean you still don't like to see him doing that. And he's, the reason why people have the Bengals as Super Bowl contenders. And if he ends up getting hurt again and missing an extended period of time, well, the Bengals' season is a wash. And I know I've brought this up too before. You really hope that he doesn't turn into another Andrew Luck. Because Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's right. And if this continues and he's dealing with injuries constantly, I mean, again, he's heading down that path. So I hope not. But that's something that, I do think about. But it's important that we don't overreact. It's one game, and this is what the Bengals typically do. But it doesn't get any easier for them, because guess where they're going? They're going to Kansas City this week to take on the Chiefs. And judging by, how they looked on Sunday and the slow starts that they get off to, and look at how the Chiefs played, Bengals are looking at 0-2 again. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Joe Burrow usually plays well against Patrick Mahomes. But, yeah, early on in the season, it might not be a good matchup for him and the Bengals. So, that's my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you guys think, though. Congratulations, though, to Jerod Mayo on picking up that win. Again, that win can go a long way. That could definitely give a team a lot of confidence going forward. So, yeah, we're going to take our next break. While my camera's glitching out, I'll fix it when we come back. When we come back, we will talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers win over the Falcons. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, let's get into talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers now. They picked up a win against the Falcons on Sunday. And it's interesting because it seemed like all along that Russell Wilson was going to start. But then as we got closer and closer to the game, the calf injury flared up again. And that was something, that we were monitoring. throughout the rest of the week leading up to the game, and then it was confirmed that Russell Wilson was not going to start. It was going to be Justin Fields, and now it looks like Justin Fields is getting ready to play here in Week 2 against the Denver Broncos. And if the Steelers start off 2-0, I don't know if Russell Wilson gets that job back. You know, it would be hard to... I mean, it's not like Justin Fields lit it up against the Falcons, but the Steelers got the win. And, you know, if they're 2-0 and you got Fields playing, like, I don't think you want to pull the plug on that. So, we'll see what happens, but this was an interesting game. The Steelers did not score a touchdown in this game. No touchdowns. This was all Chris Boswell. 6 field goals. An impressive performance by him, and T.J.Watt was unbelievable in this game. Penalties were a problem. You know, there were some questionable calls in this game, but T.J.Watt had a couple of sacks in this game. He also had a fumble recovery in this game as well. Tackles for loss. Actually, no, he had 1 sack in this game, but I think he had 2 tackles for loss, like I said. And, again, the fumble recovery. He was all over the place. Dante Jackson, who they got from Carolina in the Deontay Johnson trade, had an interception in this game, as well as Deshaun Elliott off of Kirk Cousins. Justin Fields, like I said, didn't light up the stat sheet, went 17 of 23, 156 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, had 57 yards on the ground. The Steelers, as a team, ran for 137 yards. Najee Harris, 20 carries for 70 yards. George Pickens, of course, was their leading receiver, 6 receptions for 85 yards. Pat Freiermuth had 4 for 27. So, yeah, the offense, you know, they put together drives to get into, you know, scoring position, but they only got field goals. And for Kirk Cousins, he was rusty. 16 of 26, 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Bijan Robinson, 68 yards on the ground. Tyler Algier had 21 yards on the ground. Ray McCloud, the former Pittsburgh Steeler and San Francisco 49er, he was their leading receiver, 4 receptions for 52 yards. Bijan Robinson had 5 for 43. Kyle Pitts had a touchdown in this game. And, you know, fantasy owners got to like that. 3 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. Drake London only had 2 for 15, a disappointing game for him. Darnell Mooney only 1 for 15. Drew Dalman was responsible for a fumble, their center, and that ended up getting lost. So, yeah. And then the Falcons' defense, it doesn't look bad. They had 2 sacks in this game. Grady Jarrett had a sack and a half. And Matthew Judon had half a sack, the other half of that. So you got to like that combination right there. But, yeah, disappointing opener for the Falcons. I mean, again, Kirk Cousins is coming off of an Achilles injury. And you had 2 quarterbacks this week coming off of Achilles injuries. One of them looked better than the other, even though they both guys ended up losing. But yeah, Kirk Cousins did not look great, and you figure he's going to get better as the season goes on. But you know, I mean, the offensive line, from what I saw, it didn't look like they were doing him any favors. But that could also just be because they were going up against a very good pass rush in the Steelers with T.J.Watt. They'll be on the road against Philly next week. But, yeah, it was rusty. But you already got Falcon fans calling for Michael Penix. It's one game. Let's see what he looks like over the course of the season, and then we go from there. But, yeah, not how the Falcons wanted to start. And on top of that, I thought this was hilarious. Hilarious and depressing at the same time, is that the Falcons had to use a silent count. because there were so many Steeler fans there. You couldn't do your normal thing. It was unbelievable. In their own stadium. Like, I understand it with the Chargers and the Rams. Like, they got to do that because LA has no home field advantage whatsoever. But the Falcons, they usually pack out their own stadium. Now, Steeler fans love to travel. Like, they're all, and also they're all over the place, too. All over the country. But, I mean, that was unbelievable. That there were that many Steeler fans there that they had to do a silent count. So that also didn't help. But, yeah, look, I mean, for the Steelers, and of course, I switched my pick in the spread pool because I had the Steelers, and then I was like, you know what? Because when Russell Wilson got ruled out, I changed it to the Falcons. I mean, I didn't feel great about it either way because the way the Steelers' offense looked in the preseason, I was like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. But their defense just took over the game. Chris Boswell was an MVP in this game with the 6 field goals. I mean, let me go over the field goals that he made. He made a couple of 50-plus yarders, I'm pretty sure. So Boswell, yeah, he made a 57-yard field goal at one point. Yeah, made a 57-yarder to tie the game at 3. Made a 51-yarder, a 44-yarder, a 56-yarder, a 40-yarder, and a 25-yarder. Like I said, was the MVP in this game. But, and the defense as well. But, yeah. But like I said, a disappointing performance by the Falcons. And you figured, like, it'll get better. But, at least the Falcons, weren't the worst team in their, or didn't have the worst performance of the teams in their division, because there was a team that had an even worse performance. And that was the Carolina Panthers, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But, yeah, I don't think we want to hit the panic button, and it's just, it's too early. Like, we're already calling for Michael Penix. But already the Falcons are getting knocked for what they did. You sign Kirk Cousins to that big contract. He's coming off an Achilles, and then you go and you draft his replacement with your first pick, when you should have drafted somebody that, was going to be a difference maker on the team and help the team right now. Michael Penix is on the bench. He can't do anything unless they bench Kirk Cousins and put him in. So that is always going to get criticism. It's always going to get criticism. And because he's sitting there, fans are like, let's go to him, because the offense looks terrible right now. But it's the first game of the season. And it was against a very good pass rush. And now they're going up against the Eagles. And, the Eagles, their defense did not look great against the Packers. So, and Kirk Cousins had a good game against them last year, early on in the year. So, but it's on Monday night, and we know how Kirk Cousins does in those kinds of games. So, I don't really know what to do with that game. I mean, I'm still going to pick, like, when it comes to just straight up, I'm going to take the Eagles. But when it comes to the spread, it's tough. It's a tough one. So, I mean, I've been going back and forth with that game, because I do think that Kirk Cousins is going to have a better game. But at the same time, I don't know. With him playing in prime time, you're still trying to get used to your new team. But the Eagles' defense did not play well against the Packers. They gave up a lot of points. So, I don't know. But going back to the Steelers, though, they take on the Broncos. I mean, they could go 2-0. And they have a very tough schedule. So you want to stack up towards the end of the year. So you want to stack up as many wins as possible now, because that back half of the schedule is going to be really tough. And here's the crazy thing. Right now, The Steelers are in first place. They're the only team that won out of the AFC North teams. They're in first place. A team that and it's only week 1. I said they were finishing in last. I think I think the way week 1 went, they might be finishing in 3rd or even 2nd. I think at least 3rd, because I don't see it. The way Deshaun Watson played on Sunday. That's going to be a problem for the Browns all year. You know, at least with the Steelers, I feel like, you know, you got 2 guys that I think can play all right. And Fields played okay. He made some good throws to George Pickens. With the Browns, Deshaun Watson is going to be a problem. And also that defense. What happened to the Browns' defense on Sunday against the Cowboys? They just did not. It was just a really flat performance on both sides for the Browns. But, you know, it's only week 1. I got to keep saying that. I got to keep hammering that home. It's only week 1. So, but the Steelers picking up a win. Like I said, I have them going 9-8. So, good start for them. For the Falcons, got to pick up the pieces and get ready for Philly on Monday. So, but let's not panic on Kirk Cousins just yet. Let's see this offense kind of gel and see what it looks like, you know, as we, you know, move forward here in the season. But before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comment recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat for you. Any comments or thoughts that you have that you want to see put out on the live broadcast, I will acknowledge it. And it just makes the show more interactive, more lively between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content for you guys each and every day. So any contribution you can make means the world to us. And also, another way to help out the show is by going to the link, going to GSMCpodcast.net at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about Josh Allen and his week 1 performance as the Bills came back against the Cardinals, winning 34-28. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to get into now Josh Allen's performance on Sunday as the Bills had a comeback victory against the Cardinals. And yeah, for both the Bills and the Dolphins, they didn't get off to great starts to their games, but they both had strong finishes. And already, you know, that AFC East prediction not looking great right now. But again, it's still early. It's still early. But yeah, not looking great. With literally every team in the AFC East, not the Jets, winning. Yeah, but it's still, like I said, still early. But yeah, so these are Josh Allen's stats. He also had a rushing touchdown in this game where he basically was Superman going into the end zone. He flew into the end zone. Actually, he had two rushing touchdowns in this game. So he went off. It wasn't a good start for the Bills. It was 17-3 at one point. The Cardinals were dominating this game. The Bills, got off to a sloppy start. But like I said, had a strong finish. Because the Cardinals scored a touchdown on their first drive. They went 13 plays, 70 yards. A little over 7 minutes of time possession. On the Bills' first drive, Josh Allen fumbled. Sack fumble. And that resulted in a Cardinals field goal. The Bills did answer. They scored a field goal of their own on their next drive. Tyler Bass from 37 yards out. But then the Cardinals scored on their next drive. They went 13 plays, 71 yards. And James Conner scored from 3 yards out. But then the Bills actually put together a touchdown drive before the end of the first half. And that was Josh Allen's first rushing touchdown in the game. And it was 17-10 at the half. Then the Bills, right out of the gate in the second half, they scored a touchdown. 10 plays, 60 yards. Josh Allen connected with Matt Collins for an 11-yard touchdown. So that tied the game up. Both teams punted. Then the Cardinals fumbled. The Bills then cashed in, scored a touchdown. That was, that wasn't Josh Allen's second rushing touchdown. He connected with Khalil Shakir for an 11-yard touchdown. So that made it 24-17. Then the Cardinals scored a touchdown on a field goal on their next drive. Josh Allen's second rushing touchdown was on the following drive. Connected with Keon Coleman on a 28-yard pass play. It was 31-20. Both teams punted. Bills kicked another field goal. Cardinals turned it over on downs, but they ended up scoring a touchdown though. They had on the kickoff return. I don't know why this is not labeled here, but we had the first kickoff return with the new rules, and it was by DJ Dallas. I don't know why it's not labeled here, but I know it's probably labeled. Yeah. So DJ Dallas from 96 yards, 96-yard kickoff return with the new kickoff rules. They went for two, the Cardinals did, but they didn't get it. The Bills did end up getting a field goal. So, the kickoff return made it 31-28, and then the Bills got a field goal, so that made it 34-28. The Cardinals did go for two, but they didn't get it. No, they did get it. My mistake. But anyways, sorry, I was all over the place there. But yeah, the Bills ended up winning the game 34-28. Again, Josh Allen's stats right here. His rushing yards, he had 39 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. James Cook had 71 yards on the ground. The Bills ran the ball for 130 yards as a team. Keon Coleman was the leading receiver, 4 receptions for 51 yards. Khalil Shakir had 3 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen spread the ball around in this game. And then for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray went 21-31, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Also had 57 yards on the ground. James Conner had 16 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. Also had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Greg Deutsch was their leading receiver, 6 receptions for 47 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 reception for 4 yards. So that was disappointing. Wanted to see him do more in his debut, but you figure he's going to have some big games as we move along here in the season. But the Bills' defense, big game for Greg Rousseau. He had 3 sacks in this game and the forced fumble. So that's encouraging. Von Miller had a couple of tackles in this game and a sack. So you hope that the Bills get some contributions from him on defense. But yeah, I mean the Bills, look, they had their comeback win here, and we got a big game tomorrow night, early on in the season here between the Bills and the Dolphins in Miami. So I'm excited for that game. But you see why many people have Josh Allen as their MVP pick. I mean, he took over this game. He played unbelievable. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And we had a conversation in our production meeting. Some people think he's a little overrated. And I can understand why, because, the turnovers have been a problem for him. I get it. But you see what this guy can do when he takes over a game. He's unbelievable. And, he's a gunslinger. So, yeah, he is going to turn the ball over. But you just see the talent. And, whether it's throwing the football or running the football, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It makes him so dangerous that he's this dual threat. Now, you worry that, him running the football and taking these hits is going to eventually wear on him. But, you worry about that, but at the same time, it's really fun to watch. And, it didn't look good for a little bit, being down 17-3, but, it was fine. The Cardinals, you know what? Like I said, they're going to be, I've said it, they're going to be a competitive team this year. They are not going to be an easy out. But you know what? This was a tough game in Buffalo against the Bills. I don't think many people had them winning this game. But people said this was going to be one of the best games of the slate, and it definitely was. Now they take on the Rams next week, the Cardinals do. And I think that's a winnable game for them because, the Rams got a lot of issues on the offensive line. No Puka Nacua. So, maybe they could win that. But the Rams do own the Cardinals in recent years. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that game. But yeah, the Bills start off the season strong. There's a 3-way tie in the AFC East. So tomorrow is a big game because that could very well decide seeding. And tiebreakers when it comes to the division as well. Divisional games are very important, and especially when you have the Dolphins and the Bills who, have playoff aspirations and, are going to be competing for this AFC East. It's a big game. It's a huge game. And, we're going to preview it tomorrow, of course. But, yeah, looking forward to that. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game, Josh Allen's performance. What were some of your takeaways? And you see what the Bills did. You see what the Texans did. Stephon Diggs looks like he's happy. He had his 2 touchdowns. And, the Bills' offense. So that is a game I'm excited for, too, is when the Texans and the Bills match up. That's going to be a lot of fun. Because, Diggs is going to want to show out. And, the Bills' offense with Josh Allen, they're going to do their thing as well. And I don't know where that game is being played at. Is it in Houston or is it in Buffalo? We're going to take a quick look. In Buffalo, that would be insane. I feel like it is in Houston. Yeah, it's in Houston. It's interesting. It's week 5, but it's at 1:00 Eastern time. I feel like they should push that game back. It should be a 4:30 game or a Sunday night game. But yeah, it's going to be in the early slate on that Sunday. So yeah, that should be that's going to be a fun game. Let me get to that. But yeah, Josh Allen did his thing, and now we'll see when he squares off with Tua tomorrow night. Like I said, should be a fun game, should be entertaining as well, and it's a monster game in week 2. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, we will preview it tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. We'll preview the game tomorrow. Not tomorrow night, because that's when the game will be, is tomorrow night. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about Josh Allen's performance. What were your takeaways from that? Like I said, for the Cardinals, they're taking on the Rams. And hopefully we see Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved in the offense. Also, James Conner's a stud. James Conner's an absolute stud at running back. So, yeah, when we come back from our next break, we will talk about a couple of NFC South quarterbacks and their performances on Sunday. Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. We'll get into how they did. in their games. I know we talked about Mayfield a little bit when we went over Jane Daniels and his performance against the Buccaneers, but I wanted to get into their performances together because I pretty much now went over every game in some way. So, that's what we will get into when we come back from our second to last break of the show here. So, that's what we're going to discuss when we come back. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to talk about the performances by Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield, a couple of NFC South quarterbacks, and they played well. We'll start off with the Saints. They were a frustrating team last year because you never knew what you were going to get out of them. Each week was different. They put together a good performance one week and then they're flat the next week. They finished the season strong last year. And Derek Carr picked up where he left off last year. Now, one of the things you could say is, well, look at who they went up against. They went up against the Carolina Panthers team that looks like it's not going to be good once again. But I don't know. I mean, I still think it was a good performance. I mean, we'll see when they go up against the Cowboys, if they could continue that in that game. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you do still have to kind of like what you saw from the Saints. But, I mean, if the Panthers are going to be that bad this year again, I mean, I feel bad for Panthers fans. And one note to make on the Panthers, Derek Brown, one of their defensive players, he's going to be out for the year. So already with the knee injury, season-ending IR, not what you want to hear. It was a rough game for the Panthers out of the gate. But yeah, I mean, Derek Carr, like I said, 19 to 23. You see here on the graphic here, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, was efficient. The Saints ran the ball for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kamara had a touchdown, as well as Jamal Williams. Rashid Shaheed was their leading receiver. He had 3 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. Foster Moreau had a touchdown in this game. Juwan Johnson had a touchdown in this game. Chris Olave only had 2 receptions for 11 yards. But you figure he's going to be more involved. He is the number 1 receiver on this team. The Saints, they had 4 sacks in this game, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. The defense balled out. But, you hope for the Saints that Derek Carr can continue this throughout the year. Because they gave him that big contract last year. Last year was disappointing. Maybe, another year with his second team now. I don't know. Maybe he, turns it up and, the Saints actually do well this year. But you don't want to overreact because, again, the Panthers are not very good. these next several weeks are going to show us something because they play the Cowboys, they play the Eagles, they play the Falcons, they play the Chiefs, they play the Bucks. So that's really going to tell us how the Saints match up against some of these better teams, including, a couple of teams in their division. But Derek Carr played well. All right, now let's get to my guy Baker. So Baker balled out. Again, you could look at the opponent and say, well, the Commanders' secondary is not good, so of course he torched them. But he balled out. Both of these quarterbacks did ball out. Whatever opponents they went up against, they did ball out. Baker went 24-30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a couple of touchdowns to Mike Evans. Chris Godwin had a touchdown in this game. Their rookie wide receiver, Jalen McMillan, out of Washington, had a touchdown in this game. He made the most of his one reception. It was a one reception for 32 yards. So a 32-yard touchdown. Mike Evans had 5 for 61. Rashad White had 6 receptions for 75 yards. Chris Godwin was their leading receiver, actually. He had 8 receptions for 83 yards. The Bucs ran the ball for 112 yards. Bucky Irvin, their rookie running back, had 62 yards on the ground, had a 31-yard run in this game. Rashad White had 31 yards on the ground. Baker Mayfield had 21 yards rushing in this game as well. The Bucs defense, 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks in the game off of Jaden Daniels. But these two guys, played well. And, the way the NFC South has started out, it could be like last year where you got the Buccaneers and the Saints fighting for that division if, Kirk Cousins continues to play like that. But we still got a long way to go. But, I was impressed by Baker. I was impressed by Derek Carr. But let's see if they can continue that. Because now you got Derek Carr going up against the Cowboys in Dallas. And you got Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers going back to Detroit to taking on the Lions in week 2. And they're a 7.5-point underdog. And I think the Saints are 6.5-point underdogs. So, let's see what they could do. I mean, Baker played well against the Lions last year in the playoffs. The Bucs were competitive in that game. So we'll see, how they match up again. Can they get a little bit of revenge there? And then, for Derek Carr and the Saints, let's see what you can do against the Cowboys. So that's going to, show us what they could do against better competition. But, you got to like what you saw, though. Even though it's only week 1. I mean, because when it's all said and done, at the end of the year, it could be like, the Falcons won and these two teams, finished behind them. But I think the only thing that is set is I don't think the Panthers are going to be good. Well, a lot of people are saying that. Panthers look like they're going to continue to be the same team they were last year. We'll go over Bryce Young's stats. He went 13 of 30 for 161 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Had a rushing touchdown in this game. That was the only touchdown that was scored. But, looking at their receivers, Adam Thielen continues to be their leading receiver, 3 receptions, 49 yards. And, they added a couple more weapons on that side of the ball. Deontay Johnson only had 2 receptions for 19 yards. And Xavier Legette, he only had 4 receptions for 35 yards. It was a rough one for the Panthers. It was rough. And, they take on the Chargers now. And the Chargers looked good. It looks like it might be another rough year for them. And another rough year for Bryce Young. I know it's only week 1, but there's some things you could point out and say that's going to continue throughout the whole year. And Bryce Young struggling, I think that might continue as we move forward in the season here. I hope that's not the case. But, they made the Saints look like, the Chiefs. The Saints are not going to be doing that every single week. Now, if they are, if that's what we're going to get out of the Saints, then that changes a lot of things here. But, the Saints are not that, they're not that good where they're going to put up 47 points a game. It's not going to happen. But yeah, looks like it might be another long year for the Panthers. So, but yeah, like I said, these two quarterbacks played well. I know against bad defenses, but let's see what happens when they match up against each other. Let's see, if Kirk Cousins can get it going, because I do think, these three teams between these two and the Falcons, it's going to be competitive, but I'm still going to stick by my pick with the Falcons, that they're going to figure it out. But yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't a good performance by them, but it was a good performance by these two guys, and I hope that continues. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think though about Baker's performance and Derek Carr's performance. What were your takeaways from it? But yeah, now they got tougher opponents coming up next week, so let's see if they can, have encore performances there. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we'll get into my power rankings. We're going to do my top 5 teams, just top 5. I think, as we go along, maybe I'll extend it to 10. But I just wanted to do top 5 out of the gate. I think, just for now, that's, fine to do. But, yeah, no, that's how we're going to end off the show here. And that's what I'm going to try to do each week. I'm not going to have like a set day. I mean, it's going to be between Monday and Wednesday when I, do power rankings. Because obviously with this week, there was just so much stuff to talk about that this got pushed all the way to Wednesday. It's kind of going to be like that every week, because there's just so much stuff to dissect now that we're back in the thick of it. There's so much stuff to talk about. So yeah, power rankings can wait a little bit. But yeah, so these will be the first power rankings that I do. So that's what we're going to get into when we return from our final break of the show. So for one final time today, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we will get into now my power rankings, my top 5 teams after week 1. So let me get into I'll do my honorable mentions. So the teams that will not be featured on this list are the top 5, the Cowboys, the Eagles. Give them honorable mentions. You throw the I don't know if I want to throw the Chargers in there, but the Cowboys and the Eagles are my honorable mentions. The Cowboys I thought looked good on Sunday, and the Eagles with Saquon Barkley, that was, well, at least Saquon Barkley was impressive. It was still a sloppy game, but they did get the win there. A.J. Brown had that big play there, and the Eagles had, they forced some turnovers in the game as well. So, those are a couple honorable mentions there. So let's get into my top 5. So at number 5 here, if I can get to it, we got the Houston Texans. This team is going to be very good this year, and they showed you that on Sunday. Little concerned about the defense, especially because of the big plays that Anthony Richardson was able to. I mean, that's another team that could crack the top 10 if Anthony Richardson keeps playing like he did on Sunday. Little concerned by the defense. There were some big plays. The Alec Pierce, just Alec Pierce in general. I mean, he had 3 receptions for 125 yards. Anthony Richardson threw a ball up to the ceiling, and it came down. Alec Pierce made the catch. And I think that was for the touchdown, the 62-yard touchdown. And then you had Ashton Doolin with the big touchdown. So a little worried about the Texans' defense. But their offense is going to be a top 5 offense this year. Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdowns in this game. Nico Collins had a big game. Joe Mixon had a big game. He was unbelievable in this game. What did he have? I think he had 30 carries. 30 carries for, I want to say 150? Yeah, 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. He was unbelievable in this game. Like I said, Diggs had the 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins was their leading receiver with 117 yards. Tank Dell made plays in this game as well. And C.J. Stroud, of course, distributing the football. Had an efficient day. I just think this team is going to be very good throughout the year. I mean, this team could give some of the other top teams in the AFC problems, and you saw that on Sunday. Now they take on the Bears this week. That should be an interesting game. But I did like what I saw from the Texans, and I got them at 5 here. So then at number 4, I got the Detroit Lions. That overtime win over the Rams, it didn't look good for a little bit because, first they were up 17-3, and you thought, oh, they're going to run away with this thing. And then, things kind of changed. The Rams came back, then the Rams were winning. Jerod Goff threw an interception. But, they were still able to pull out the win. I mean, they got a 2-headed monster of running back with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery finished with another good game. The Lions as a team, let me go over again how many rushing yards they had in the game, because they did. They just ran the ball down the Rams' throat in overtime. But yeah, they finished with 163 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, one by Montgomery, one by Gibbs. Gibbs had 40 yards on the ground. Montgomery had 91. Jerod Goff, is a solid quarterback. Had an okay game on Sunday, but you figure he's going to continue to play well. Jameson Williams had a big game against the Rams. If he can turn into that number 2 wide receiver, that makes this offense even better. Because Amon-Ra St. Brown only had 3 receptions for 13 yards, and you figure that's not going to be the case every game. He's going to have his big games because he is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL, I feel like, too. But yeah, if Jameson Williams can turn into that number 2 receiver, which we have talked about before on this show, that makes this offense even more dangerous. And Sam Laporta, of course, the tight end going into his second year, solid player. And you know what, the defense, Alex Anzalone had 10 tackles in the game against the Rams. He had a big game. That was the weakness of the team last year, was their defense. And it looked like, it got better at certain points during the game on Sunday against the Rams. This is one of the more complete teams in the NFL. And, I got them at 4, though, despite their win on Sunday. At 3, I still got to put the Baltimore Ravens. I like what I saw out of Lamar Jackson running the football. I mean, throwing it, definitely want to see more. But Isaiah Likely looks like he's going to have a big year, despite Mark Andrews being healthy. The Ravens are going to be running a lot of 2 tight end sets. I'm not going to make the same mistake and bench him this week. I still won my fantasy matchup despite not starting him. That I'm not making that same mistake. I don't care if he has a goose egg next week. I'm starting him. I'm starting him at my tight end spot. And with Derrick Henry in the fold, I mean, it was interesting that the Ravens kind of went away from him at certain points during the game. But you figure he's going to have his big games as well. And Lamar Jackson's going to have, wasn't great throwing the football, but, you see when he takes off with it and runs the football, he is, a dangerous player. Trying to get him down, how elusive he is. So, and I would like to see the Ravens maybe try to go out and get another weapon, another pass catcher. That's something that I think they're missing. And I said Devontae Adams, could be available. I like Zay Flowers, but, Rashad Bateman, who did have a big play towards the end of the game that, set up the potential likely game-tying touchdown. Well, not game-tying because they would have, they were going to be going for 2 there. But Bateman made a big play there, but, I don't really know what to expect from him. And Nelson Aguilar, we kind of know what he is at this point. So they need another pass catcher there. But they're backed by a very good defense. Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith. I mean, this team is, the game that we saw against the Chiefs, that could be, we could see that again down the line in the playoffs. Right now, despite how the AFC North looks, I think this is going to be the team that finishes at the top. I know it's early, but I did pick them to win the division. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like with the Ravens, but there's some things that they could do better. But yeah, I got them at 3. Then at 2, I got the 49ers. And might be a little bit surprising because, I mean, they just dominated the Jets, especially running the football. And with who was running the football, it wasn't Christian McCaffrey. This was Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason had a game. This team is just talented from top to bottom, with the playmakers on both sides of the ball. I mean, you saw it on full display, even on defense with Fred Warner punching out the ball on Breece Hall. Once they get Dre Greenlaw back, I mean, the defense is only going to get better. And then offensively, hopefully Christian McCaffrey comes back soon because that team is only going to get better, the 49ers. Brock Purdy didn't have to have a monster game. Was able to find the open man when he had to. Deebo Samuel had a good game on Sunday. Brandon Ayuk, wasn't great. Was really a non-factor. Dropped a touchdown pass in the game against the Jets, but you figure he's going to get going. George Kittle's going to have his big games. Once Ricky Pearsall comes back, that adds another weapon. Jawan Jennings was making plays as well for them. Jake Moody, how about him on Monday with the performance that he had? He was unbelievable. He's come a long way since that rough beginning to his season last year. He looks like a real weapon for them as a kicker. So this is a very complete team as well. They're going to be one of the top teams throughout the year. You're going to be seeing them a lot. And then finally, no surprise here, I got the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They were impressive. Their offense was last week. The defense, I mean, they were going up against Lamar Jackson. They struggled to stop him running the football, but their defense is going to be good this year again. And their offense, I mean, compared to what it was last year, I mean, this is the Chiefs' offense that we saw, when Mahomes first became a starter. And it's only going to get better because now Marquise Brown is coming back. So you got him along with Rashee Rice, who had a good game, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy, who had a great debut to his NFL career with the 2 touchdowns. And, of course, Isaiah Pacheco running the football. So, I mean, you're going to see the Chiefs on the top 5 a lot as we do power rankings each week. So, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for the Chiefs, the 49ers would be at 1. Sorry. So, to kind of just reiterate, the Texans at 5, Lions at 4, Ravens at 3, Niners at 2, and then the Chiefs I got at 1. So let me know what you guys think about those power rankings. How would you rank your top 5? Let me know in the comments. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize for the beginning where I just, lost my voice. We're still working our way back to 100%. I know I keep saying that, but definitely getting better. Definitely getting better. So, definitely the best I've felt in the last couple weeks. So it's a slow process. Again, I don't know what this is that I have, but we're on the backside. We're on the tail end of this thing, and hopefully, we get to that point where, I'm not. It looks like I'm crying at the very beginning of the show, but it's all good. Everything's good. So, that's pretty much it. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Like I always say, give the other shows some love. And, yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.